I guess did you know that KP and Carl had those kind of hands?
Well, we do. The only credit, I won't even take any credit. That's all athleticism and just great job by those kids being at the right place at the right time. We do ball drills a couple times a week because those guys do zone drop and drop into coverage every once in a while. But I mean, if you watch those plays, that's athleticism. That's recruiting. That is not coaching. So I'm taking no credit for those. Hats off to those guys for making a hell of a play.
Carl, it seems almost kind of picking back up where he was last year. I think he's matched his sack total from last year. Just how have you seen him kind of come along since the injury?
He's coming. I mean, he started off the year really well at Iowa. He's taking more reps than even he did last year. When you play those up-tempo teams, you don't get a chance to rotate even as much as I'd like. I don't want him to be playing 70 plays a game. I'd like to see him around 50. I think he'd be more productive at 50 than he would at 70. But he's grinding it out. He's playing really hard. I think you're just seeing a much more mature mentally player than even a year ago. With the time he had off, I think he did a good job studying the game and maturing in that aspect. So, I don't look at the stats a whole lot. I just kind of watch the tape, and he's playing well. There's some things we can clean up. I think both him and Kevin need to be more disruptive as pass rushers. They're doing some good things, don't get me wrong, but I think there's still some things we're leaving out there that, that we could certainly take the pressure off the guys behind us and stuff like that. And so we'll keep working on that.
I noticed at least once on Saturday there was a time where you guys switched all 4 D linemen. Is that something kind of new that you guys are able to do with more depth, or is that something maybe you've been doing for a while?
You would say it was probably new. We did a little bit last year. We had a little bit of depth inside last year. We could do it. Not so much at DN last year. This is probably the first year we can truly go 5 deep at DN and be able to rotate like that. And even at D tackle, with Javari and Ravante coming along, where we can really rotate guys like that, which is great because those guys they understand they don't have to play every play. And when your mindset knowing that you can play really hard and get a breather for a play or two, those kids, it does the opposite effect. It wears down offensive lines. You know what I mean? It's kind of disheartening when you see a new group of fresh guys come in ready to get after it. So, there's been a lot of development there. We're fortunate to have some depth, and even without Shiloh right now, we're still able to, Nella's doing some good things out there. Garrett Krall's coming along. Josiah certainly has a very big role in what we're doing, and having obviously Kevin come back from an injury. So, and it keeps competition alive. That's the biggest thing too. Those guys know that, hey, if you don't play well, shoot, there's 4 or 5 other guys we can go to. So that's always in the back of their minds too.
I'm working on our story on Carl. I know he and when he was out last year, he and Ryan Cummings kind of got to be good friends just because they were kind of going through the same thing. Could you tell that was helpful for him to not have to go through that by himself?
Yeah, a little bit. Carl's a pretty quiet dude. And he keeps to himself. And I'm gonna be honest, I was concerned because anytime guys get hurt, and especially with season-ending injuries, every one of those guys will tell you they kind of feel detached from the team, and none of that's intentional. But when you're not out there participating in practice or getting to travel, you just kind of naturally there's a little bit of a separation. And so I think getting him back and just working out this summer was the biggest thing. And running with the guys and being around the guys again. I noticed a huge shift in just his mood when he got back around the guys and he was truly involved. It's one thing to say, you're at practice and you're standing there and watching, but when you're involved in things, it's a little bit different deal. So I'm sure having Ryan there and then being able to talk through things certainly helped. I do know it definitely gave him a different, I think, perception. Sometimes that was his first injury. So sometimes when guys have never been hurt, they don't know how to handle it. And I think that kind of gave him a little bit more light on him. He's always been a kid that loved football, but it makes you realize how much you really miss a game when it's not there, if that makes sense. And I think him and Ryan were able to share that a little bit, I guess. So.
And I know, I guess on the missed extra point on Saturday, I didn't get a great look at it. Was it just kind of a bad snap on that one? Do you know?
You'd have to ask folks. Coach Ball. That's not on my
Okay,
so gotcha. I stay in my lane on that one.
Okay.
You'd have to ask those two about that.
In general, on special teams, do you like, where the team is at right now?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys know, me and Mike are splitting it now. Me and Mike but yeah, we've been doing some good things. I think we've had more of an opportunity just as a wholesale to impact the game. Like kickoff returns done an excellent job this year with field position. I think we've been better on kickoff this year. Punt returns, we've had some big punt returns. On punt, you see Tim getting better every week as far as his placement, what we're doing there, and protectionally. So But a big part of that, as coaches, we can't say, oh, it's because we're doing this, and this. Those kids are a year older and a year mature, both mentally and physically, and there's a lot to be said for that. The difference between a true freshman, a sophomore, and a junior. You look at guys like Elijah Halliburton, big special teams guys like that. You know, you look down the line, and those guys have an even bigger impact when they're a year older, physically and mature and wise. So I'd say that's a big piece of it. You're not seeing a bunch of 18-year-olds, or not as many of those guys.
Right.
If that makes sense.
So which unit specifically are you on now?
Kickoff, punt return.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
And with Carl, I know he, like you mentioned, he's pretty quiet, and when we talk to him, he's pretty quiet. But some kids are like that, in interviews, but on the game they're different. So is he pretty quiet when he's out there too? Is he not much of like a trash talker or anything like that? Or?
Not really.
Yeah.
No, I mean, during spring ball and fall camp around guys he knows he is, but not on the field. I mean, his play talks for him. You know what I mean? And he's never been that much of a barker or chirper. He will in fall camp a little bit when he's going against guys he knows, and that helps break up sometimes the grind and the monotony. But some of it is you go against teams like Utah State or Oregon, they're going so fast. Nobody's got time to do that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're talking play after play after play after play. So, no, he's always been a guy that's, now I say this, when you get to practice, he's out there, brings a lot of energy, and his presence is felt. You know what I mean? And guys notice the way he practices. So, but he's never been a guy he's talking with his pads. So.
And are there added challenges this week when I know their second quarterback, Cozart, does a little bit more with his mobility. Does that, fall on the defensive ends a little bit to keep him in check?
It'll definitely us, and it'll be a wholesale group effort, recognizing each of those quarterbacks off is ripping as a dynamic thrower, and you're talking about the ability to place the football in different situations, recognize pressures. I mean, there's a reason why he's been one of the best kids in this conference the last couple of years. So, and then Cozart just adds a unique blend to that, and it's not like, that kid can throw the ball too.
Yeah.
He was a starting quarterback, I believe, at Kansas, if I remember. So, he can throw the ball too, gives a different running look, but even you watch the game against San Diego State, Rippon took off, I think, twice for two big scrambles. So, it's not like you can look and say, while they have distinct differences, both of those guys can hurt you in unique ways, and we've got to make sure our kids understand when those guys are in there what their strengths and weaknesses are.